So we only put this out so people wouldn't call them. And if you do call AB 77, we will deal with you severely afterwards about seances and stuff. So do you remember the story of that young bratty prophet, Elijah, who was called by Elijah? And you know, prophets in those days, they wore kind of like cloaks like Superman. The prophets, show you my coat is not cool. It's you know, it should be blue or something. But remember, Clark Kent didn't get to wear his Superman suit for quite a while, but there were no phone booths around at that time. But the prophet wore something like this. He had it like this. So when he walked, he went, ooh. This thing around his shoulders was a sign that the authority would come. Hey, you've got a Superman in front of you. Let me just put this on for a second. You know, when you're a nerd and God calls you in the ministry, it's very frightening because nerds don't talk to people, they talk to shoes and stuff. When I get called into the ministry, it's very scary. Often I'd be in college where kids, you know, would eat Christians for breakfast with their Wheaties, and I'd be out the back and saying to God, this is all your fault. You got me into this. I just wanted to be a nerd chemist, and see that audience? Of course you do, you're omniscient, but see that audience out there? They kill people like me. So the principal is introducing me. The kids are throwing cans of Coke at me. I've got to go out next. I'm out the back, and I'm just like Clark Kent, looking for a phone booth. And I find it's a little crack somewhere in the stage, maybe behind the curtains, there's my phone booth. I go in there and say, God, I'm not going out there unless you help me. Right now. And then it comes. It's like the cloak, you know, the cloak comes on. And then they're all waiting for some wussy, I don't know, Mr. Bean preacher. Hello, how are you? Would you like to share with you a few thoughts about God? And then I'm transformed. I freak out 40 ways from Friday, and then I rip my shirt like this, and here it is. Yes, saved, it says. The prophets, they wore this thing around their shoulders, and it was a sign that the authority and the power in their life actually was placed on them or around them. As a young Christian, I was thinking when, you know, my journey into speaking is still going on. But as a young nerd Christian, I was asked, Youth for Christ, the ministry that I first began to work with. When I first became saved, they had a street ministry thing, just open air preaching. Had some music and stuff. And they asked me, look, we'd like you to give your testimony. All I did for the first 6 months was play bongo. That was my whole ministry, bongo. It's not recommended, and it's not one of the gifts of the Spirit, but that's all I did. And so they said to me, look, you've been here a lot. I'd like you to give your testimony. I missed my beat. They said, yeah, just share a testimony, just something short, and it'd be long. And so I said, okay. I'm just losing the entire rhythm for most of the night waiting. And he says, we have a guy here with a very weird name. Well, that was a great introduction. Winkie. He was a little bear in the early days. Winkie Bear was a Sunday school fluffy bear thing. Now it's a gay Teletubby. It's really rough. Right? So he said, would you like to share your testimony? Okay. So he calls me up, and there's a crowd of people there. Don't know any of them. Okay. So this is my first testimony. Hello, I'm Winkie, and I'm saved. Thank you. That was it. I was kind. He said, well, it was all right, but it was a bit short. So, like, you know, put a little bit more into it, and maybe add a scripture or something. So next week I was back on call again, Hello, my name's Winkie, and I'm saving. By the way, God set up the world and He gave His only forgotten Son, that whosoever, what's it? And if you do that like for 50 years, they call you a preacher. So it was rough, but I tell you what was really wild one day. I was now actually preaching. I mean, I was speaking more than 5 minutes, and I got up to do this first thing, and it was in a street corner, and I looked up, still in high school, okay? I looked up and I saw 3 of the biggest cynics and skeptics in our school that was in the class that I had, who had never ever heard me speak in anything together, crossing the road to go to a dance. And I got up to speak, and they were like, right where you are, about to cross the road, and to this day I can see it in slow motion. They saw me, they recognized me, and there's this guy in the middle, and he had like a permanent sneer, the wind had changed or something, and it locked his face, and I remember looking at him, and he looked, and then I saw it, digging his teeth into it, saw it in all slow motion. I'm going to die, okay? I'm just going to plain die. They're going to come and sit right there and laugh and jeer that I'm going to die. Now what if, in the middle of about to die, as I'm standing there, nothing to say and freaked out of my mind, what if immediately behind my right shoulder this bright light began to glow, and then it got more and more solid and more wide and high, and it was the shape of a person. It was Jesus, right behind me. And I heard Him say, I'm here, kid. Now say what you have to say. Bring them on, line up the demons, I don't care, bring them on. Say, that's what the cloak was. That when that went on you had an authority that came from another world. Yes, I'm losing mine, thank you, super Tom. Completely feeling mine, that's super glued on. The prophet, when he walked through, he carried this thing, but there's this young guy whose name is Elisha, and he's plowing oxen. Prophets are weird people too. I'm a non-prophet, so I can share this with you. Here, the proper way, politically correct, hello, what's your name? Elisha, that's a nice name, it's kind of like my name. Listen, Elisha, you got a bit of time, we can share together, and maybe sit down, and have a cup of hemlock or whatever they drank at those days. And then I've got a proposition I might like to make. This is what he does. He walks up to him, see, as he's plowing with him. And then he walks away. You know what that guy does? He gets it. He says goodbye to his parents, he kills his oxen, he's certainly not going back to plowing. Has a big barbecue for everybody, must be infected. And then he moves in with Elijah. Now here's the wicked. For year after year after year, he doesn't do anything. It's not written up in Charisma magazine. He doesn't give a prophecy in the local assembly. He doesn't do anything. All he does is sort of like polishes Elijah's sandals and maybe walk the dog if they have one. And that's about it. And there's a school of the prophets. There's all schools. Yes, we are schools of prophets. And I bet they're cynical. Hey, I haven't even heard a single, haven't even done a tract or anything. What is wrong with you? Now, if he'd picked me, by now I'd be deeply into miracles. It's embarrassing, just walking the dog. So one day, when your boss walks up to you and he says this, by the way, I'm leaving today. When? Heaven. I'm going away. For how long? Forever. And he says, I just want you to stay here. I'm going over here. Now what would you do? You haven't even done anything. You just walk the dog. Maybe the dog is going to get anointed. What would you do? You can't just listen to his words, you have to listen to the tone of his voice. There are some people who come to God and ask him for stuff that God expressly forbids. Now that's a dumb prayer. You can't ask God if you can do something that he says you can't do it. But some people, they don't listen. They just go, well, if I keep on asking, you might give it to me. And that's exactly right, and you'll be sorry. The scripture says, some people go, I want to marry this guy, I know he's not saved, okay? He's a Philistine and a Canaanite, and probably an Amorite as well. But I really want to marry him because all the boys in our youth group suck. And this guy is really cool. He's like, really cool. And if I marry him, perhaps he'll get saved. It's called missionary dating. I need to have a dating seminar where can you date a guy and maybe marry him and lead him to Christ from the inside? People think you can. So what I did, I used to pick a girl out of the audience and stick her on a chair. First I just picked any girl, then I picked nice, small ones. They had some annas on it, just nearly ripped my arm off. And I'd stand her on a chair, and I'd just say to her, just pull me up there. See it, 5 forward, second board is going to get you. So I get pulled, and nothing at all, I just stand there. And I get one little tug, and she'd come right off the chair. And I'd say, can you date a guy and bring him to God? Maybe, it's possible. The odds are against it. One little tug, she'd come down. The odds are that you'll be the one that falls. And I had a girl come to me in California. Now sometimes, I'm now both 30-something years old. And this young lady came up to me and she said, you know who I am? I've met him when they were like 5 or something. And now it's 25 years on, and I looked and I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't. She said, you came to my father's church and used this dumb illustration. You pulled me out of the audience and stuck me on a chair and did this dating illustration. And she said, well, it was a dumb illustration, but she said it saved me from some very bad situations. And she said, I finally got to marry somebody really cool. Do you know who I'm married to? I said, no. She said, Benningham. So I said to Benningham, so I said, you owe me. You could have been married to some Philistine. Anyway. When you listen to God, you remember the lady that came to Jesus and she said, my little daughter is sick. She wasn't Jewish. She belonged to a whole group of people that actually had fought Israel before. But she came to Jesus because she saw something in his eyes, felt something in his life, and she thought, I bet he would help me. She said, my little daughter is sick. And he said the strangest thing. He said, it is not right to take the children's bread and give it to the dogs. Well, what would you do? And say, could you help me? No, it's not right to take the children's bread and give it to the dogs. You'd probably say, you call me a dog. I'm never going to talk to him again and leave. But she saw his eyes and she heard the tone of voice. And in the Middle East, you see, dogs aren't allowed in the house unless they're children's pets. And even then, under strict conditions, sometimes when they came in the house, the kids would slip stuff that they didn't really want to eat under the table. And it was all right for them to do that as long as they didn't suffer first. And this is what she said. True, Lord, to use the word, that even the puppies get to eat from the crumbs under the master's table. And Jesus said, great is your faith. And their daughter was healed like that. So it is not just what God says, it's how he says it to you. If you come to God and you keep asking something that is wrong, I want to do this. Well, and he says no, he may say to you, then I'll give it to you. He gave them their request, but he sent blameless. And you'll be sorry for that answer, friend. Listen to him. that tank they were going